Hello and welcome back to Picture Perfect Greek. Today we try an experiment. One viewer wanted me to make a video that is like a news, an immersive news item like you would see on TV. Of course, I've simplified it. I made the language a little easier to understand. Tell me later in the comments if you found that it was too easy, perhaps. I can make it a little more complex, or generally if you enjoyed it. So I will give it to you immersively, which means that I will just read you the Greek text slowly, hopefully so you can understand it, and I will show you here on the screen the vocabulary. So if you don't want to cheat, you can just try to listen to it. If you cannot listen to it alone, then you can read the vocabulary on the screen. And later also, perhaps I will give you a little bit of an explanation of what happens here. So let's begin. Here is your news of the day. Στην Ελλάδα, πολλά μικρά σχολεία σε χωριά και νησιά κινδυνεύουν να κλείσουν. Κάθε χρόνο το κράτος πρέπει να αποφασίσει αν θα στείλει δάσκαλο όταν υπάρχουν πολύ λίγοι μαθητές. Αυτό είναι ένα μεγάλο πρόβλημα, γιατί όταν ένα σχολείο κλείνει, οι νέες οικογένειες με παιδιά συχνά φεύγουν από το χωριό και πηγαίνουν σε μία πόλη. Έτσι, τα χωριά γίνονται πιο άδεια. Γι' αυτό είναι πολύ σημαντικό αυτά τα μικρά σχολεία να μένουν ανοιχτά για να βοηθούν τα χωριά να έχουν ζωή. Οι δάσκαλοι που πηγαίνουν σε αυτά τα μέρη συχνά έχουν δυσκολίες. Δεν είναι εύκολο να βρουν σπίτι και η ζωή εκεί μπορεί να είναι ακριβή, ειδικά στα νησιά. And now I am going to briefly explain it to you. Στην Ελλάδα, πολλά μικρά σχολεία σε χωριά και νησιά κινδυνεύουν να κλείσουν. Στην Ελλάδα, you understand, in Greece, πολλά μικρά σχολεία, small schools, σε χωριά και νησιά. In villages, χωριά, και νησιά, islands. Κινδυνεύουν. Κινδυνεύουν means to be in danger. Κινδυνεύουν να κλείσουν. They are in danger of closing. Κάθε χρόνο, every year, το κράτος πρέπει να αποφασίσει. Το κράτος is the state. Πρέπει να αποφασίσει. Must decide. Αποφασίζω is to decide. Πρέπει να αποφασίσει αν, if, θα στείλει, will send, if it will send, δάσκαλο, a teacher. Όταν υπάρχουν πολύ λίγοι μαθητές. Όταν, when, υπάρχουν, exist, when there are, πολύ λίγοι, very few, μαθητές, students. So every year the state must decide whether it should send a teacher when there are very few students. So for this you need to know that teachers in Greece are employed by the public. These are not private schools, these are public schools. They're employed by the state. And the government does make an effort to support small communities. We will see in a moment why. The article tells us this. And there is a famous story, you will find the video online, about a school that has only one student on an island and a few teachers. And so there is this one person there. And the government does a good job in trying to support this one person for a reason that will become clear in a moment. Αυτό είναι ένα μεγάλο πρόβλημα. This is a big problem. Γιατί όταν ένα σχολείο κλείνει, because, γιατί, όταν, when, ένα σχολείο, one school, κλείνει, closes, οι νέες οικογένειες με παιδιά, οι νέες, the new, οικογένειες, families, με παιδιά, with children. So when a school closes, the new families, the young families with children, συχνά, very often, φεύγουν από το χωριό τους και πηγαίνουν σε μία πόλη. Φεύγουν, go away, από το χωριό τους, from their village, και πηγαίνουν, and go, σε μία πόλη, to a city. So it's about the countryside being depopulated, because when schools close, then obviously the parents also have to move to a bigger city, and so villages get abandoned, and the government doesn't want this. They don't want the countryside to be depopulated and everybody to be in Athens. They want to have a population in these places. So what they do is to support small schools and to put teachers there, even if there are only a few students, because this keeps the families there, it creates jobs, it, creates a life in those places. Έτσι, τα χωριά γίνονται πιο άδεια. So here perhaps it's a little overdone, the simplification. Γίνονται πιο άδεια. This you would not say actually. Αδειάζουν. You would say. Αδειάζω is the verb to empty something, to become more empty. Έτσι, therefore, τα χωριά, the villages, αδειάζουν. Become more empty. Γι' αυτό είναι πολύ σημαντικό αυτά τα μικρά σχολεία να μένουν ανοιχτά. Γι' αυτό, therefore, είναι πολύ σημαντικό, it is very important, σημαντικό means important, αυτά τα μικρά σχολεία, these small schools, να μένουν ανοιχτά, to stay open, για να βοηθούν τα χωριά να έχουν ζωή. Για να, in order to, βοηθούν, help, τα χωριά, the villages, να έχουν ζωή, to have life, to be lively, to be alive. Now again, να έχουν ζωή in this context is not something you would naturally say. This is perhaps a bit oversimplified because I did not want to use a more difficult word that you might not understand. So this is not always the most news-like language, right? News would be more complicated. But I remember from the fire video that many of you said this was too difficult for you. So let us try this level. It is certainly Greek, it is correct Greek. It is just not exactly Newspeak. Newspeak would be a little terser and a little bit more advanced language. Οι δάσκαλοι που πηγαίνουν σε αυτά τα μέρη συχνά έχουν δυσκολίες. Οι δάσκαλοι, the teachers, που πηγαίνουν, who go, πηγαίνουν, to go, σε αυτά τα μέρη, to these places. Συχνά, often, συχνά, έχουν δυσκολίες, have difficulties. Δυσκολία is the difficulty, ευκολία is the ease of something. Είναι εύκολο, you say, it is easy. Είναι δύσκολο, it is difficult. Δεν είναι εύκολο, so here we have the εύκολο. Δεν είναι εύκολο, it is not easy, να βρουν σπίτι, to find a home. Και η ζωή εκεί, and η ζωή, life, there, εκεί, μπορεί να είναι ακριβή. Μπορεί να είναι ακριβή. Can be expensive, ειδικά στα νησιά. Ειδικά, especially, στα νησιά, on the islands. And this is particularly, of course, the case for tourists. The islands like Mykonos, they have a big problem because Mykonos, Santorini, these islands that are very famous for tourists, attract a lot of tourism. They are very, very expensive. And for a public teacher, employed by the government with the salary they get, it is not possible for them to live a whole year in Santorini or in Mykonos. There are just no places where you can stay that are cheap enough that a normal teacher can afford them. So this is an extreme form of gentrification. You could say the tourists have, of course, a ton of money because they save money all year in order to be able to afford a holiday in the summer. So it's not necessarily that the tourists are so rich, but they are just, willing to spend the money they have saved on these holidays, and then they outcompete on the housing market the local teachers. And this is a problem that is very difficult to solve. Governments always have thought about this, but it is difficult to make it work. So yeah, this was it. Small schools in villages are in danger. This was our news item for today. I hope you had fun with it. Tell me in the comments what you thought, if this was too easy or too difficult, if you would like this format a little more also. I don't want to make only song videos, right? We want to have some variety. So if you like this kind of news reporting, I can get you news that are actual news. This was just now reported in Kathimerini. I would put the link below to the original article, and we can talk more about news every week. I can make you a quick video like this that gives you some news in easy Greek. So thank you, and see you again soon. Bye bye.